Chet, Sam, and Dan. And our presentation is on the 2015 breach of this company called Hacking Team, in which they lost all their data. At least 400 gigs of data was leaked by what's assumed to be one person. They had all their source code, all their customer information, and all their emails revealed to the public. So this is an Italian company. It's based in Milan, Italy. And the main thing they sell are these remote control systems, like this one, Galileo. And what they do is they allow their government or corporation, law enforcement agency, whoever buys the software to monitor the communications of their internet users. They can decipher encrypted files and emails. They can activate cameras and microphones on the target computers. They can spy on Skype and all that. Basically just spy on anything they want. And this is the attacker. Again, it's presumed to be one person, but there's been multiple arrests since this has happened, so we don't really know. It could be multiple people. He goes by the name Phineas Fisher, but he also goes by this frog puppet. In a Vice interview, he used that puppet to talk. And on the right over there, that is a guide that he posted about how he did this hack, and you can see the frog on there. He's assumed to be in Spain. And before this hack, he also hacked a company called Gamma International, which is a similar spyware surveillance software company. So he's very against government surveillance, and it makes sense why he would choose Hacking Team to hack.
The details of this hack come almost entirely from the pastebin he posted, where that ASCII image art came from. It's kind of a hacking manifesto or guide. He has a whole bunch of resources for how to hack in the future. So because of the nature of the company he was attacking, was a spyware company, he did not attempt to use a phishing email or other like that kind of attack vector. Instead, he tried to map their network using Google and Nmap, which is a port scanning tool. So he found Joomla blog, postfix mail server, and a series of hardware devices, embedded devices like a VPN appliance and a spam appliance, a couple of routers, and he needed to write a 0-day to get into their network. So these are the public-facing devices. He ran JoomScan on the blog, found no vulnerabilities. Postfix is robust, so he didn't really want to try to find some crazy 0-day in that, and he figured that finding a 0-day in an embedded device would be the easiest. So he went ahead and took 2 weeks reverse engineering the device, creating a patched firmware update for it after he found a vulnerability. That included a host of tools like BusyBox, TGCD, which is a remote port forwarding tool, SOX, which is a proxy server, and he injected this firmware, which included a backdoor for future access, and was able to get into their private network at this point. Chet's going to take you through the second part of the attack.
So at this point, he had access inside their private network. From here, he decided to run Nmap to scan their internal network. With Nmap, he was able to find some unauthenticated Mongo databases, which contained information about test runs of their RCS spyware software, and also contained a lot of documentation about the software and the exploits that they sell, and also like their internal network structure. He was also able to find some iSCSI devices on the network, which is essentially like a network mapped like drive system. And so from here, he wasn't able to directly mount the iSCSI device on the embedded device because it didn't support iSCSI. So instead, he port forwarded a port on the iSCSI device through the embedded device and was able to mount it on a VPS from outside of the network. On the device, he found various backups of virtual machines, the most important of which was the backup of the company's Exchange server. At this point, he had access to the company's Exchange server backup, and so he was able to run password dumping tools like pwdump, cache dump, and LSA dump in order to find plain text passwords inside of the server backup. Inside of the registry, he was able to find the BlackBerry MDS connection service credentials, which were a local admin account on the Exchange server. So using those credentials, he was able to log into the current live Exchange server, and while he was on there as an admin, he ran Mimikatz to dump plaintext credentials out of memory on the server. In those credentials, he also found the domain admin username and password, as long as username and passwords of a whole bunch of the employees of the company. So with access to the mail server and access to the domain admin credentials, he was also able to compromise the GitLab account that the company used, because credentials were reused between like company accounts and the GitLab accounts, or the GitLab account, and that GitLab account stored all of the company's source code and their exploits and everything of that nature, so he was able to dump all of that information. And using their email server, he was also able to use the forgot password functionality on like social media sites and other services to reset their password and gain access to their other accounts.
So at this point, Phineas Fisher has quite literally complete control over everything this company owns, pretty much. So on July 5th, 2015, he changed their Twitter account not to Hacking Team, but Hacked Team, and tweeted all their source code, all the emails that have been sent out by them to not only the companies and organizations that Hacking Team was public about working with, but several different groups that they were not public about meeting with. In 2013, the UN had a conference with them and asked them directly, are you giving your software to Morocco, Egypt, the Lebanese army, these groups that were purposely spying on people, and people did not know where they got their technology from. Hacking Team denied it, said they were not doing so. Turns out that was a big lie. All of the info was kind of released on this day, so starting on July 15th with all these tweets, for a lack of a better word, they were screwed. And that continued to be the case going forward several months. They were really struggling. They had hit a major blow PR-wise, and on April 2016, their license to sell outside of the EU was revoked. This was really significant for them because up until this point, they kind of had a blanket approval to be selling to whoever they wanted, regardless as to whether or not they were public about it. And now, even within the EU, there was a lot of scrutiny about who they were selling to, but anything outside of the EU had to go through a rigorous process to determine whether or not they were able to sell this, and everything they were going to sell was going to be thoroughly looked at. And around that same time is when Phineas Fisher posted the GitHub that we kind of showed a little bit of a preview of earlier. When it comes to how the media was handling this, there was a lot of focus on two main areas, mainly on the Hacking Team and kind of all the nefarious things they were doing that they explicitly stated they weren't doing, and on the almost hilarious ineffectiveness of their passwords. You saw a little clip earlier of all the passwords for all the company. One included password where the A was replaced with a 4, which is very surprising for a professional security group. I think pretty much everyone in this room has probably have a better password than that. One thing we were surprised at personally when we were looking at kind of how the news was reporting this is that there was almost no coverage of the ethical responsibility and considerations when it came to Phineas Fisher himself. Clearly, there was some law breaking going on. He did not have access to their servers, and there was no authorized access rather. So there is clearly a law that is being broken, but almost no one wanted to report on that. They all wanted to report on the fact that Hacking Team was doing things that were illegal, and that Hacking Team was outright lying to citizens and even abusing the human rights of people in other countries by supplying these means to repressive governments. And that kind of brings you into this ethical gray area that is really kind of hard to make a stance on as a group, and we kind of invite you to make a personal stance on it, on who is kind of in the right here, because yes, Hacking Team was doing these, wrong things, and they were actively lying to the community and to the world, really. But on the other hand, Phineas Fisher broke the law in order to kind of gain this information, and it was an unauthorized hack at the same time. So there's really not much we can know about past how he did it, whether this is going to happen again, because like we said, no one really knows who Phineas Fisher is. There have been several arrests made so far, but none of them have been accurate so far, and they've all been kind of made in vain. So until we find out his real identity, we are kind of in the dark here. So we leave it up to you to make a decision about who you really side with on this matter.